And today we're going to talk about something called slope-intercept form. Okay? Slope-intercept form is something that will never go away in your math life. I literally am doing it with pre-algebra right now. I do it in Algebra 1 for half the year at least. And then definitely in Algebra 2 and pre-cal and everything. It's not going to go away, so it's good that we get this exposure right now. So slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b. M stands for the slope. What did we learn slope was yesterday? Rise over run. So slope is rise over run. Talked about that yesterday. And we count slope by rising, so going up and down, and then running left and right. We also talked about positive and negative slopes. A positive slope would go where? Up from left to right, and a negative slope would go down from left to right. So that's what yesterday focused on. We're going to throw in something today called a y-intercept. Okay? A y-intercept, and we're adding this on there, is where it crosses the y-axis. And if you don't know which one the y-axis is, draw an up and down like this. The y-axis is the vertical axis, the up and down one. So when we graph these linear equations, these are a linear equation. And if you had no idea what a linear equation was, what do you think it might be by looking at the word? Do I have any guesses? Line. A linear equation is a line. So we're going to follow 3 steps in order to plot these. So the first thing that we're going to do is identify the y-intercepts. And we're going to plot that on the y-axis. And this will be some number. Okay, I don't know what number yet. It depends. If it's like a +2, then we're going to plot a +2. If it's a -3, we're going to plot a -3. Step 2, after you put that y-intercept on the y-axis, you're going to use the slope to find a second point from the y-intercept. And remember, we're going to count slope as rise over run. The last thing we're going to do is connect the points with a line. Everybody just a second to get caught up. All right. Anybody still need a second? Okay, so when we go to graph these, I will always first label my axes. That's the word that's plural for axis. This is the x-axis always. This is the y-axis always, every time. Now, when I go to look at the line, it says graph y equals 2x minus 3. I know that this is y equals mx plus b. So, can anybody raise their hand and tell me what they think the y-intercept would be? Yeah, Timmy's right. This right here is the y-intercept. And it's the y-intercept because it's the number that's being added or subtracted on. Okay? Now, to plot the y-intercept, I'm going to go to the y-axis. And see how it's -3? Everybody should be paying attention. See how it's -3? You're going to go from the origin, 0, 0, and you're going to go put a dot on -3. So -1, -2, -3. So I put a dot on the y-intercept on the y-axis. And then step 2 says that you're going to use your slope to find a second point from the y-intercept. So what is your slope of this? Looking at this, what's your slope? What number? It's the only other number. 2. So this is my slope. And if slope is not a fraction, like it says right here, put a whole number over 1. So I'm going to make this be 2 over 1. And you're going to take your pencil and you're going to put it back on that y-intercept. And before you start counting your slope, is it positive or negative? Positive, so I can expect my line to go up. So to count a positive 2 over 1, I'm going to rise up 2, run to the right 1. So what I did was, this was a 2 over 1 slope. So I rose 2 and I ran 1. So I started here again and I went rise 2, run 1. And if you want to add another point, you can count it again. Rise 2, run 1. And then you're just going to draw a line to connect them. All right, we're going to kind of skip around here. So we're going to flip it over. And we're going to do number 3. I know these boxes did not copy very well at all. Okay, so it says identify the slope and y-intercept, then graph. Okay, so on number 3, what do you all think the y-intercept is on number 3? Terry? The 5. So the 5 is the y-intercept. Because I know that it's y equals mx plus v. M is my slope. B is my y-intercept. So that's how I know that the 5 is my y-intercept. All right, what's my slope? 2 over 3. And it's positive or negative? Positive. So I know that my line should go up. All right, so we're going to go on our little graph here, and we're going to go to 5 for our y-intercept, because that goes on the y-axis. So I start here at 0, and I count up to 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then my slope is 2/3, which means I'm going to rise 2, run 3. So I'm going to go back to where I put my y-intercept, and I'm going to count that. I'm going to rise 2, run 3. So rise 1, 2, run 1, 2, 3. And I can do that again. You actually have to use your pencil to graph it. So I'm going to rise 1, 2, run 1, 2, 3. And I can count it again. Rise 1, 2, run 1, 2, 3. And then I draw my line to connect. All right, let's do number 1 together. All right, so who can raise their hand and tell me the y-intercept on number 1, Raymond? The +1. All right, what about the slope? Aiden? 2. Now, how do I make 2 a fraction to count rise over run? Put a 1 under it. So I'm going to, oh, here, look, I'm writing the word rise. So I put a 1 under it. So I'm going to rise over run. Now, what kind of slope am I looking at here? Positive. So I know my line's going to be going up from left to right. Okay, so on my y-intercept, it's +1. So I'm going to go up to +1 and put my dot. And then my slope is +2 over +1. So I'm going to rise up 2, 1, 2, run 1. And I can count that again if I want. Rise 2, run 1. There I am. All right, why don't you all do number 2? Even if you're not sure, I still want you to try. All right, what's your y-intercept? -4. All right, what's your slope? 3 over 1. So on my y-intercept, I'm going to go on my y-axis and go down 1, 2, 3, -4. So there's my -4, my y-intercept. What kind of slope is this? Positive. It's a +3. So I know my line's going to go up from left to right again. And I'm going to count rise 3, run 1. So I go back here. Rise 3, run 1. And I can count that again. Rise 3, run 1. Are there any questions about a positive slope? All right, we're going to flip it back over and we're going to go for that negative slope. Now, a negative slope, what is your line going to look like? Down from left to right. See how these went up, 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 up. These down here are going to go down. All right, now, something about a negative slope, though, is very important. A negative slope, and I want us to put this on our paper. The negative is either on the top or it's on the bottom. Right? Stay quiet. Can anybody tell me why you could not have a negative on the top and the bottom? Timmy? Yes. Brian already knew that. So a negative, you cannot put a negative on the top and the bottom, because a negative divided by a negative is a positive. So that's why with a negative slope, that negative can either only be on the top or only be on the bottom. Now, with a negative slope, if I'm doing rise over run, which way do you think you would go if you were rising -2? Down. Down. So let's put an arrow next to that. What about if you're running a +3? Which way do you think you go for positive numbers left and right? To the right. Because think about a number line. Where are the numbers positive on a number line? To the right. Okay, look at this one. What if I rose +2? You would go up 2. And what if you ran -3? To the left 3. So I want you all to put that on there. Make sure you put those arrows on there. It's very important. What? Preston, I hope you wrote that down if I come over there. Yeah? Okay. All right, so can anybody tell me what they think the y-intercept of this one is? +5. So my y-intercept is a +5. So I'm going to go up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then my slope is -2/3. So I know my line's going to go down. Okay, so if you graph it and it doesn't go down, then your slope wasn't right. So it looks like I'm going to rise -2, run +3. So when I go -2/3, I'm going to rise -2. So I'm going to go down 2, 1, 2, and I'm going to run +3. So right 1, 2, 3. So I can count that again. Down 2, right 3. But when Timmy did his, he's like, no, Miss Wilson, I wanted to do the negative on the bottom. So watch what Timmy did. Timmy went up 2, left 3. Is he wrong? No, look at his point. It's still part of the same graph. It's still part of it all. So he can go either one of these and it still comes out the same. But my slope is negative, so it's going down from left to right. We're going to do a few more of those so you can see that negative slope. I think the negative slope is just the trickiest part of this. Has anybody seen this before other than my labbers? You have, Jonathan? Yes, Aiden? 6th? 5th? All right, we're going to flip around. We're going to go to number 4 on the back. I hate that these graphs copied crappily because they weren't crappy when I put them in there. So, all right, so on number 4, what is your y-intercept on number 4? -1. So I'll put a -1 there. All right, what's our slope? -5/2. Oh, it's a negative slope. So I know it's going to go down, and I can either put the negative on the top or I can put it on the bottom. But I can't have it on both because 2 negatives make it positive. All right, so my y-intercept is -1, which I think we're getting pretty good at putting the y-intercept on there. Now we just got to count that slope. So that slope is -5/2. So I can either rise -5, so go down 5 and run +2, or I can go up 5 because it's +5 and go to the left -2. So I'm going to put my pencil back here on that y-intercept, and I'm going to go down 5, right 2. So down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right 1, 2. Or I can count that again if I want. Down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right 1, 2. So it's just a little bit off the graph. And look at my line. I can't draw a straight line to save my life. But look, it's going down from left to right. It's a negative slope, which is what I wanted. It is negative. All right, why don't you all try number 6? All right, so what's my y-intercept? Positive 5. What's my slope? Negative 1/3. So I know it's going to be negative, so I know it's going down. Okay, now that negative is either on the top or it's on the bottom. So obviously my y-intercept goes on the 5. But now the slope, I know my line should be going down. So I'm going to go rise over run. So I'm going to go -1 rise. So that means I'm going to go down, and I'm going to run positive 3, so I go to the right. So down 1, right 3. And count that again. Down 1, right 3. And look at that negative slope going down from left to right. All right, try number 5. And then I'm going to pass out the homework for us to practice. Yes, Chevy. No, just wait just a second. We'll go over it in just a minute. Shh. Shh. Let me pass it. Just hang up for a second. I'll tell you what. Did you already do it, Gomez? Did you already do it? You need to try and pay attention. Plot your y-intercept, so look at your y-intercept and put that on your y-axis. Shh. Right, guys, shh. Shh. All right, so everybody, what's my y-intercept? -2. Shh, guys. Shh. What's my slope? -3/1. So I'm going to go down 3, right 1. So my y-intercept's -2. And then I put my pencil back on that y-intercept, and I go down 3, right 1. Down 3, right 1. And it's a negative slope, and look at that line going down from left to right. Down from left to right. All right, so Raymond's going to pass out the homework. We're going to work on that. And yeah.